We will have 1 hour here now where we'll have presentations from different Nordic projects and networks. And then after that we will have a plenum dialogue with you. So if you have questions and so on, please keep them until the end. And then 1 o'clock we have a lunch where you all have a possibility then to talk more personal with these people. So we will place them, or you will sit down in on one table each out there, where at the other house where we have the lunch. You grab a sandwich and then you can sit down with them and talk to them, and you are allowed to move. They sit with their own table as a host, and you can move or stay with them. So that's the format of this session. Yes, I will give the word to you. So, Stefan, do you want to start?
I might as well. Well, hello everybody. My name is Stefan Moberg. I'm a stage director, and I represent the Swedish Association of Stage Directors here. And I'm here to talk to you about a project we've been doing for a couple of years now, where we get our members and also other people to meet theatre leaders in a very, very nice and very efficient and very quick way. I'm talking about speed dating. See, I'm on the board of the Swedish Association of Stage Directors. We're here for 10 years. We have approximately 300 members, and out of those 300 members, 2 have a steady job. They are employed by theatres. The rest of them are freelancers. We all work on a freelance market. And the single most important question for our members is, of course, how do I get in touch with people who can give me a job? How do I get in touch with theatre leaders, with dramaturgs responsible for planning the repertoire? And that is our problem. On the other half, buried under an avalanche of manuscripts, suggestions and hopeful inquiries, and with precious little time to consider, discuss and answer all these eager job hunters, most of whom they also know that they will have to disappoint, something a lot of people shy away from. And from this situation came the idea of speed dating, a short meeting, face-to-face, with no obligations or promises from either side, a chance to see whether directly if you are throwing your bait in the right direction, or, for the other side, if there may be a gold nugget or two in the avalanche. We first tried this at the Swedish Theatre Biennial in Borås in 2009, and it was an immediate success. And since then we've repeated it several times. I'm going to give you some statistics and figures later, but the mold we established at this first tryout has been the same ever since, with small adjustments. So first we contact the theatres and say, do you want to participate? Do you want to meet? Some of them say yes, maybe coming up. Then we ask the members, all right, we have these theatres, they will be present. Which ones do you want to meet? And everyone gets to make a wish list. And from that wish list, we make date books for each participant in each theatre. As a job-seeking participant, you get a sheet that says, all right, you're going to meet and so on. And the theatres, of course, they get a long list with names that are coming to see them. The entire session is normally about 90 minutes, including some information in the beginning, etc. And at a given signal, when I or someone else ring a bell, blow a trumpet or toot a horn, the first session starts, legally and yourself. At the end of those 7 minutes, we sound off again. Toot! End of session. The theatre leaders have 3 minutes to gather themselves after this overwhelming impression that you made on them before the next session starts. A job seeker normally gets to meet around 4 or 5 theatres during these 90 minutes, and the theatres get to meet perhaps 10 or 12 job seekers. Since this first experiment was a success, we repeated it at another biannual event, the Bibo Festival in London, which is a festival for theatre for young people. And that also went over well. I think we had about 15 theatres participating there and about 40 job seekers, which met in a total of 140 intents. And by now this was established. The Theatre Biennial, which of course is a very good place to have these because the entire market is there, both the theatres and our members and so on. But now they want to start to ask, we want this to happen again and again and again. And it is now a very established and something that most festivals think they can't do without. We have some collaborators also brought in. The employers' organization, Swedish Performing Arts, put some money into it because they thought it was a good thing for them. And also the Swedish Center for Dramatic Writing, who organizes all the professional playwrights, screenwrights, dramatic translators and so on, have been a partner in this. And their members can also participate. I think I've presented most of how this works. See if I have any. Yeah, the last time we did this was at the latest biennial in Jönköping 2 years ago. We'll do it again this participated in. Totally, during the 5 times we've done this so far, 75 theatres have participated. 190 job seekers. I'm not talking individuals here, I'm talking about many of them have come back, of course. And we've had a total of about 700 meetings. Now, I know what you want to ask. What is the result? What has happened? How many jobs have we generated? Now, we don't have statistics of that. We don't have, I wish I could say exactly how many, but we know that already at the second speed dating we arranged, some theatres said, we don't want to participate this time. Said, why not? Well, we're so busy planning the productions that we got ideas to the last time. Fine. that we know that our members have endorsed on this. We know that apart from the fact that some suggestions that have been presented at these 7-minute speed days have that. What has also happened, which is equally important, is that it was interesting talking to you. Why don't you come by and we'll talk some more? The door has been opened, the contact has been made, a personal relation has started to grow. And that has, on several occasions, resulted in other productions that were never mentioned the first time. So we will keep doing this, and why not on a larger and Nordic scale the next time?
Kedja project that I'll tell you something about now. It's not a network in the sense that it's not an institution with members and fees, but it's rather a kind of platform or a community for the dancers in the Nordic and or everybody working in the contemporary dance field in the Nordic and the Baltic countries. So, our background is that there were some informal meetings going on, a few hours here and there in the festival, and we decided to make this more formalized, to make possibilities for more people to meet. So we gathered together, 6 organizations, and we were so lucky that we were funded by the EU Cultural Program. And this was the first time was in 2008, where we did 6 network meetings. You can say I'm using the network word now, but we're of course networking in 6 Nordic and Baltic countries, and then we managed to run a year funded by Danish and Nordic support. Nordic support's been a part of it all the way through, and write a new application for EU and do another 3 years where we expanded our activities, and we're in this second big round now. So, Kedja means chain in Icelandic. So it's about all the links, all the individuals working together and thereby creating strength and action. And again, this platform thinking is that what we are is really all the people and the organizations and the institutions working together to create and share all this knowledge that is within the field and create some actions too. And from this slide there's one important thing, and that's the bottom line that says scholarships, that when we do these network meetings, we have always had this opportunity to give scholarships to make sure that people coming from all the countries, and that it's not only privileged people with an organization behind them, but we're supporting freelancers this way, as good as we can, of course. The whole idea is about creating these opportunities for all these people to meet, find out what's going on, develop some things together, produce some things, and share them. So this development is an important word for us. So we want to develop really the concept of what contemporary dance is in the Nordic and the Baltic region, and the possibilities for this field. And our main method, you could say, is to meet. We have a mentor program, which Anne-Sophie is running, and so it's 2 persons meeting. We have think tanks, where it's a slightly larger group meeting. We have a writing movement, where it's typically also not so big groups meeting. We have the wilderness residents, also will tell you about them later, where it's artist group meeting a whole community, and we have these encounters of maybe 200 to 300 people meeting. And the ambition of the whole thing is again to widen and communicate the concept of dance as an art form. So what is dance? How can dance be in all its many ways that it's manifesting itself today in the artistic practice, and also in the whole region, and in collaboration with other sectors, and of course towards the audiences and the general citizens of our region. And we do all this because we believe that dance as an art form has something to offer to everybody in society. And the actual activities is the mentoring scheme. I'm not going to say so much about it. 12 mentees, 12 mentors. The mentees and the mentors are coming from different countries. We have 2 think tanks, and one is working on this notion of creating more sustainable strategies. Somebody mentioned this in the previous session. So they think about how can we do things together in a better way, and this period where they had their meetings is ending and their conclusions and things are going to come out in the fall. The other one has worked on creating a touring network, established a touring network for contemporary dance in our region, and they've also gone now from being a think tank to actually being a network that is going to put some performances on tour and make collaborations between our countries. And the writing movement is concerned with articulation and language around dance, and how do we address dance also in going towards academia. And we've also commissioned some text about dance and publishing them in various medias. And of course creating networks between the people who are interested in working with this issue. And the writing movement has a blog where you can read more about that. And then we have wilderness dance that Asa will tell you a lot about later. And there's this blog also where you can see a lot of photos of what went on in the wilderness residencies. And our next, then finally we have the encounters, which has been the thing going on all the way from the beginning. In the beginning we had 2 each year, and these last 3 years we had 1 each year. And so the last one planned now is in Mariehamn in the Åland Islands. And if you look at the map, so if you don't know where it is, it's between Finland and Sweden that we're going to meet, all of us, in August. And the important thing about the encounters is they're open to everyone. There's no application procedure. It's just signing up. It's free to attend, but you have to pay, of course, for your travels. But there are also these scholarships available for a few persons. Of course, there's always more than one that get the actual scholarships. And here's a map of where there's all these activities going on. This circle doesn't mean anything. It's just not a very good crafted map, but you can in a way see that we have activities very upper north in Hammerfest and Stamsund, and we have Iceland, and we have spread out all over actually. So what is the impact of this? Okay, it's of course this high level of local collaboration that's really been strengthened through all these years that we've been going on, and the empowerment of the individuals for them to realize that they're not alone. There's a lot of other people out there doing the same things that they are, struggling with the same issues, and perhaps we can do things together. And so actually, during this period, we had 140 sessions. I think it's actually a bit higher now. I haven't really counted the last half year, so meticulously yet. And there's been 110 performances. That's because we always have performances when we have these encounters. Of course, we use the opportunity to share the artistic works, and approximately 200 or 2,000 people have had some connection with our activities. And we have given out different things like publications and articles, and now the dance works are coming out. Some of them just premiered, and all of them will be in Mariehamn. And of course, a lot of new collaborations has happened, and probably also a lot that I don't even know about, but people who found out that they had something in common and decided to continue some work together. And so we feel that what we have done has really resonated with some need, and there are people out there who are very interested in participating in these activities, and they keep keep the interest stays on. And this, especially the communication and contact between the Nordic countries on one side and the Baltic on the other hand, in the dance world has really been strengthened through our project. We just have so much more knowledge about each other, and we still have very different economies, very different circumstances, but we are trying to cross some borders here, and we feel the project has succeeded with that. And also we have been reaching out of this region to other primarily European networks who are working on something similar than we are. And just to end up on a note from John Ashford, who's a very important figure in European contemporary dance and who has been following the project in the beginning and is also joining us now in Vietnam. And this is a quote from him when he was talking about our project. These are the partners. We're 11. So, like I said in the beginning, we're not an institution in itself, but we're of course only existing because of institutions and organizations in the region. So big and small ones mixed together here. This is our website where you can read more. We have a Facebook page. And then I just have photos, a minute or so, just with impressions all the way back from when we were in Vilnius and the Arts Printing House. If somebody knows it there, they sort of opened for us. There was not really, electricity was not functioning so well, but we managed to have a great meeting there. And this is Copenhagen.
I think
It's the end now, yeah. So I'll just put the images through, and I'll end on this note of with a photo of wilderness. So Iceland, John Ashford, Riga, Aarhus, Tallinn, we're almost there. But just to show you that it's a lot of different activities that's going on, and here is an image from wilderness. And on that note, I will give you word to Asa and tell everything about that part of our project.
Thank you.
Originally from the Nordic theatre days that were held in some Nordic cities every 2 years for decades. And 2 years ago it was Iceland's turn to host the days. And Iceland, or Performing Arts Iceland, made the proposition to its Nordic partners to change the concept and change the name of the days from theatre days to performing arts, to encompass the whole sector of the performing arts, but also change the structure of the days and create more engaging opportunities for artists and producers and the field to meet. And it's been extremely happy for us to see how our Danish partners and colleagues have embraced this concept and made the caravan of the 4 cities. So, here to you, Susanna and partners. So, like Kama said, I am the project leader of Wilderness Dance, which is the financially biggest project of the Kevia network for 3 years, from 2012 to 2015. So we are in the latter part of that project. And Wilderness Dance derives from the desire of 5 partners in 5 countries. Denmark, Iceland, Norway, Finland and Latvia, to engage together in a project that brings the periphery to the center. And it is so that in our Nordic countries, large part of dance production, dance education, dance anything has been centered around our capitals. And there are many people here in the audience, like Palle Granhøj, that can tell you about the relationship between Aarhus and Copenhagen. and Aarhus in a city. So we got together and developed this project of creating a strong, financially strong, and a large project which would make locations, tiny, small communities on the periphery of our countries, the center stage of a large, internationally, globally minded project for dance artists, and create opportunities for these dance artists to experience another type of production process and a creation field than they normally are in. So these are the locations of the 10 residency locations that are part of Wilderness Dance. And in short, we are 5 partners in 5 countries. We have 10 locations taking part in our project, which are all on the edge of our region. There were 10 companies chosen out of a pool of 200 companies that applied to take part. And each of these 10 companies have been going on 2 residencies for 3 weeks, each residency in different countries. Now we reach the stage in the project that all these residencies have finished. The last one just finished 2 weeks ago. And the work has been premiering from February, almost 1 per month, and then some of them will premiere at the joint Wilderness Festival in Kedia, where all the 10 creations, installations, artistic walks in nature, whatever they are very versatile productions that are coming out of the Wilderness Project. And that's actually, I don't know if we have time to go into that, it's quite interesting for us, the partners, to see what is the outcome of the project, because we make no demands artistically that the project should be linked to wilderness, so to speak. We just chose the companies on the basis of the artistic idea and our belief in their ability to engage in a project like this. It's completely up to them whether it's a normal black box production that could have been made in a city, or whether it's something that happens in a site-specific location or anything in between. And we have experienced various spin-off presentations that have already been happening and are still to happen around the project. We are now actually starting to talk and discuss a new project, Wilderness 2, if you like, and we have already decided, as a result of a trip I made to Australia earlier this year, that Australia is going to join the Nordic Baltic region as an equal partner in a new wilderness project, which we aim to create a large funding application for later next year. So the locations, just to give you a feeling for that, this is pictures from the 2 residency places in Finland. One of them is in the island Haluti, which this snow picture is from, and a dancer on a slate going from his guest house to the studio that they work. This is the transportation that they use there. Then there's, of course, the woods of Finland are always present, as you see here. And the cows are actually a representation of the audience in the other Finnish locations, because it is literally in the middle of nowhere and no one lives there, and the cows are the audience. Unless somebody goes and gets some other audience. This is from Latvia. The 2 residency locations are on one hand in a very special natural reserve in the middle of Latvia, and the other one is on a beautiful beach location by the Baltic Sea. And then, of course, we have gone to the fjords of Norway, and to the Arctic town of Hammerfest. And then, of course, Denmark, the beautiful wilderness of Denmark, the white sands of Jylland. And actually, Denmark's residency locations are in two Højskole, which is a special type of school system that they have here in Denmark. It's like artistic colleges, might be the way to describe it in English. Well, you can add to that, Susanna. And then lastly, Iceland. We have two locations quite far away from the center in Iceland. One of them underneath the biggest glacier in Europe, Vatnajökull, and the other one in the town of Egilsstaðir, where this picture, this black and white picture is from. So I wanted to show you, which really gives you a better idea about the project than I can do in a span of 10 minutes. It's a sentence from our first wilderness documentary. But I don't know if the technique is going to work. Where's the microphone on the computer coming?
No, there is sound now.
There is now sound. Okay. So I just want to give you like a 1 minute from this video.
Yeah, there is 2 minutes left.
Not working. Do you hear anything?
No, but it's no
It's buffering.
Yeah, anyway, let's not spend time on that. It's just a beautiful sentence that this artist says about when they came to Hammerfest, they thought it was completely impossible to work there. There's just no way that we can work here, as he basically says in her special Latvian accent. And that, lo and behold, in a few days they discovered that it was actually possible, and it's mainly because of the people that they understood that it's possible. So, to sum up, our findings, and we are still working on our findings because we are still within the project, but some of the findings that we find is that this unlikely mixture of places, because the places of the residencies are everything from schools in Denmark to tiny little culture centers in the east of Iceland to a natural reserve place in Latvia and everything in between. But this unlikely mixture of places have become interesting and stronger under one banner, meaning our wilderness project. So we have brought to these places a philosophy, an idea, a desire to bring together artists and wilderness locations within one project, which has really been useful for both parties, the artists and the locations. The work that is being created is carrying influences in the most interesting way from the W's and brings knowledge of and about the locations into the international dance arena. The artists, talking about time and space, is one of the thing that all the artists say is that this has been the most peaceful and quiet and solemn ever experience that I've had as an artist. They are really finding peace and quiet to work. They are finding all sorts of benefits from working in small communities. And to round that up, basically the artists say it is so easy to work here, anything can be solved because of the closeness of the small community. And everybody is willing to solve whatever inconceivable big problem there might be. We have felt that there are new competences being built up for the local hosts and leaders. They are learning through our project. The communities, the people living in the places, if there are people living there, are getting involved in the project and getting inspired to do their own. We feel that the project has been a contribution to our local revitalizations. The communities are realizing their strengths, realizing that they have something to offer to a larger arena. And we have felt that we are making a small but important contribution of the power of the arts to regional development. So I'll leave you with that, and you can ask more.
Thank you very much.
Oh, hi. I'm Ann-Sophie, and I don't like microphones, but I will manage. I'm the managing director of SITE Sweden, located in Stockholm. It's a production and what we say knowledge house, a place for knowledge development and managing. And I will present SITE and also why coaching and mentoring is an essential part of our aims. We are the production house in Stockholm for contemporary performing arts with a focus on dance, as we have seen that the infrastructure for production for dance is very weak everywhere maybe, but very much in Sweden. I mean, theatre companies, groups, they have theatre buildings, but dance, the infrastructure for dance is very weak. So the house contains an area with offices and meeting premises, as well as a large studio for rehearsals, production work, seminar and workshops. The SITE studio and offices are available for hire for all performing artists and companies, but we also use them for our own workshops, labs, artistic labs, seminars connected to artistic development and research. With this mix of activities and people working at SITE, we create great opportunities for networking and exchange of ideas. SITE is running the house and the meeting place, but we are also partner in an incubator, and we're sitting in the board called Transit, Incubator for Art. It's for all artists and disciplines, and it's also situated in Stockholm. At Transit, you receive an office place and coaching for 2 years. It's a focus of managing development. And together with Transit, we organize an amount of workshops, seminars, debate, and networks. We also run regional projects, national regional projects. For example, in Dalarna, in region north of Stockholm. And it's a 3-year developing project, and the aim is to develop 3 artists in residences, establish strategies for audience development, and touring of professional dance in the region. And we are planning to work with them during the period of the 3 years. Now we are also planning to have a similar project together with 3 regions in Norway to develop dance, professional dance in their regions. SITE is also a partner in the Nordic Baltic Producers Network. And I know that Jens Christian is not coming, right? Yeah, okay. So it's a network for young producers and young managers and for choreographers. And we meet in different countries during different festivals, and of course during the Kedja encounters. And it's a help for them to meet, to network, to develop their skills of how to manage and how to tour internationally. We have different themes every time. We are now starting our first international artist in residence this summer. Actually, we are a very young organization, so we don't have money, but we start anyway. You know, you cannot always wait for the money to come. So we are inviting and hosting a residency with 6 artists from the Slade School of Fine Art. And we are using the period in the summer when no one is renting our studio. So we just give the studio away and they have to pay to come to us. So that's a way to open up the doors for people to come from abroad to meet artists in Stockholm, and for, of course, people in Stockholm to have the international influence. We are also working with Dance for Screen, because there is no one doing that in Stockholm. So we have showings, we have workshops, for example, with Shelley Love and Katrina McPherson from England, and we have evenings with dance being. What is important to know is that SITE is not a theatre. We don't have paid audience coming to us, but we are opening up our doors for all the seminars, showings, work in progress. It's a lot of the companies coming and having their production time in our house that want to open up, to have the debate, to have the discussion, to develop their artistic work together with the audience. But we are not a theatre, and that's very important for us. And we are also part of the different dance festivals, like Dance Love Stockholm last year. But we are a learning center where artists and companies may seek professional advice and coaching on how to develop their business regarding managing your business. SITE have a project called Project Room, and its aims to develop the new and helping the established to grow. It is a place for knowledge and guidance for questions regarding how to build your strategies, application, productions, budget, national and international touring, funding, PR marketing, and other project-related activities in connection to your artistic work. And it is also possible to discuss and receive guidance about single issues, not only your productions. And Project Room is free for everyone in the performing arts, and it's free of charge. People don't have to pay to come to us. And some people come just a couple of times, and some companies or groups will follow for a longer term, and helping them funding their activities. SITE also have an artist in residence. It's a little bit a different artist in residence. We offer for 1 year, sometimes 2 years, depends. We provide them with an office, rehearsal space, at least for 1 week, and they can always use the studio if it's not rented out, and the network inside. And coaching for artistic and organizational development is a major part of the residency, as most of the artists are in some kind of artistic or managing transition. We have a lot of dancers who want to start working with their own company, or they want to start to make choreography. And so it can be young people, they can be a little bit older, but it's some way in a transition where they are. And this year we have 5 choreographers and 1 director in the program. And we provide them with free access to us. We're only 2 persons working at SITE, but they can use us as their coach and mentor, and we also design special workshops for the needs that they approach to us. And SITE is... What? Oh, quick! And of course, SITE is the Swedish partner in Ketja. And we are running the mentoring scheme, and it's very natural for us because we are developing this at home as well. And the focus is to develop the international capacities of dance for managers, for producers, and self-organizing artists in the dance. And the focus of the mentoring scheme is to share knowledge and experience in order to develop the performing arts management field. The aim is to stimulate professional growth of younger dance producers and managers, to direct mentoring coaching from experienced and well-known people from the from the art sector. And in June 2012, we organized an open call for application through the Nordic and Baltic countries and their regions, and we were looking for the young people to apply, and we had approximately 70 applications, right? Yeah. And during the summer and autumn, we organized a national pre-selection made by the partners of Ketja, and then we had 3 to 4 persons from each country, and then we had a follow selection of 12 mentees. Then we started to find the right persons to be their mentors, and the key for us was what did they ask for in the application? What were the needs from the choreographer or from the producer? And we worked really hard to match. And the aim was also not to have a mentor from your own country. So we opened up these cross-border activities and knowledge between the Nordic and the Baltic countries. And during 2013 and 14, they have been meeting on an individual basis, and of course we meet during the encounters in Tallinn and now in Mariehamn. And it's a very special program, and most of them have succeeded, really got to know a lot more, or develop their skills. So we hope that this mentoring scheme will emphasize the empowerment of the individual and strengthen the competence needed to initiate local, international and cross-border activities. Yeah. Thank you. Please ask me more.
Since I'm jumping in 10 minutes earlier, maybe we should just get some things rolling. I'm wondering a bit, I have a number of questions to raise to you guys. Because do you think in countries like the Nordics, where somewhere between 75 and 85% of whatever goes into the arts sector is funded by public budgets, do you then think that institutions have a specific democratic right or obligation to actually increase a more diverse number of narratives? If yes, please stand up. If no, sit down. Does institutions have an extraordinary democratic responsibility? You're quite twisted in that. Then I would like to raise another question. You can sit down again. And this other question is about, do you think that the amount of narratives, the amount of shows, the amount of exhibitions that is being put on show reflects the diversity and the complexity of the artistic community in the Nordic countries? Yes or no?
In the institutions or in
the institutions. Do you think that that is the case? You can stand up. If no, you can sit down. That's a very massive no. The last question. If you think that institutions, I'm still raising the questions about the institutions, if you think institutions should do much more about the way they recruit, the way they design their operations daily, and the way they define themselves in terms of artists brought to stage and audiences they reach out for, if you think that is the case, and that they should really so to speak, redesign themselves, you can stand up. If you think that is not the case, you can be seated. Okay, thank you. And now the computer is up and running, which is very great. I'm not very surprised by the answers though. I hoped you would do like that. My name is Niels Riekold. I am the managing director of an agency based here in Copenhagen called the Danish Center for Arts and Interculture. And we used to be a public body. We used to be part of we call it a cultural political power system. We was reporting to and directly financed by the Ministry of Culture. Until a few years ago, where the former government supporting party found out that they were giving money to a research institution, and communication institution that actually promoted cultural democracy, and that was not exactly their political agenda. So we were kicked out and have restructured ourselves as a membership association, but basically doing exactly the same things that we did before. Only now we are no longer part of a political system. We are able to stand aside and more look into what are we talking about. Now the people on the screen behind me could be audience, but they could also be artists. And no matter whether there are audiences or artists, they kind of frame a conflict that we have, at least in Denmark, Sweden and Norway, which are the three countries that we work in. We still have a tendency of being very reproductive in terms of the art institutions. We reproduce ourselves. We continue performing the same kind of excellence today that we did yesterday. And intellectually, there are lots of will to change, but in the way that we actually work, the willingness is not being translated into concrete change, really. I'll come back to that. So what we do in our centre is that we try to address a triangle. We were set into action to help institutions understand that there were a number of artists outside the mainstream that needed to be included into the arts sector. That was about extending mainstreaming, and it was about including other narratives, mainly narratives from sub-environments, sub-milieus, foreign artists living in Denmark, etc. So we were set into action to kind of interact between the artists and the institutions. What we have found out over the years is that that is simply not enough. There is another two legs to these. There's a relationship between the institutions and the audience, which is very much defined by the politicians that sit in the boards or have framed the existence of these institutions. Oh, you have 20,000 visitors today, we would like to see 22,000 next year. You know, that kind of butts on the seats logics. But also increasing demands in terms of institutions being relevant for a local community. But leaving it to the institutions to find out what does that actually mean. And I used to be a museum director, and to some extent I would rather that the institutions and the professionals knew how to deal with this and took the decisions. On the other hand, looking at what is actually going on out there in my own country, I'm not sure that is just such a good idea. Many institutions are very reproductive. They don't raise the questions about relevance. They don't kind of reflect on, could we do things in another way? Could we bring in other stage directors? Could we bring in other companies? Could we extend the way that we work? Could we bring in new narratives? Where do we get the narratives from? Could we bring in new artists, etc.? But even that is not enough. We found out that we have to bring in the perspective of the audience and the connection between the audience and the artists. So this triangle, that's where we work. We try to find out how these things interconnect and what are the problems, the opportunities and the challenges that occurs from that. So we work with inclusion, diversity, intercultural competencies, audience groups and user perspectives. And we try not to talk about, for instance, audience development, because that's a marketing tool. We are much more interested in the engaging between the DNA of institutional reality, the perspectives of the artists, and I would rather not live in a country where we ask the artists to be very, very deliberately reaching out for specific groups just because we want them as politicians or gatekeepers. And the institutions, so to speak, framing the meeting between artists and their audience. So we try to extend, so to speak, what happens when our sector meets these challenges in as complex a way we can. We are not interested in just telling the good stories, because there are lots of good stories out there. Of course, we should tell them from time to time, but we're much more interested in the friction, because it's in the friction. It's in the challenges. It's when it becomes difficult that institutions and artists and audience groups actually move. So, for instance, this is probably the most conservative institution in Denmark. It's the Royal Chapel. It's a 500-year-old symphonic orchestra, and the musicians there were very, very anxious about the sacred room in their performing tradition. But when they were brought together with connectivity designers, collaborative designers, saying you can actually still play your Schubert, but you could allow your audience not to turn off their mobile phones, but to turn them on and download an app, and where they can actually, via the app, reflect their emotions while you play your music. Then you might experience that their reflections could influence the set design and the light design of the concert. So suddenly the musicians for the first time actually had a directly contact with their audience. This is not our project. We were just kind of looking over the shoulder to the project. But that kind of projects where you actually challenge things and you go into a kind of more lab-based idea is things that we are very focused on. So basically, we try to tell institutions that whenever they need to do something for the artists, new narratives and audience, they should think about the construction of their own DNA. Because it's only when they do that that they can do the same things and think about who they are reaching out for. Why do we want to reach out for people? On top of that, these 3 slides works on a Mac, so I'll just skip it. On top of that, we try to find out what does artists need, what do they need? And these 3 slides are actually all on an idea of creating a kind of cooperative organization where artists help artists in framing artists' everyday life. And this could be a very long talk, but I only have 2 minutes. Because this is something we call SMART, and it's basically for artists, by artists, in order to administer being an artist. There are lots of artists, you actually touched on that, living outside the institutions, being depending of actually getting support from the arts councils and being selected by the gatekeepers in the institutions to perform. And that does not correlate with tax systems, with financial support systems, with anything. So artists are very often left alone as small individual companies without absolutely no support and caught in between different rules. So what we're setting up in Denmark now, and we're launching it in the autumn, is an arts support system where we basically try to help artists managing just being an artist in this triangle between audience, institutions, and free artist with an individual profile. Thanks.
Solve the mark there. I will do this as a new generation, 3-dimension super PowerPoint presentation. You will get the actual tool, and it has 500-year battery. It doesn't get hot. It can turn it with a simple tube, similar to iPad. So I'll distribute this at the end. I'm presenting, my name is Nulla Fakini, Cantabile 2, move over here. I'm the artistic director of Cantabile 2 and curator of the Waves Festival. I'm presenting something called the In Touch Network. We can let this go around as we speak. If you want, please, to help me. The In Touch Network, and I read, is a new network connecting companies and organizations producing and programming human-specific performing art. And I know this means I have to spend a few minutes clearing the concept of what human-specific performing art is. As you can read on the screen, it is a new approach within the field of contemporary theatre, defined as artwork that, 1, offers personalized and intimate experiences to members of the audience. Here the key word is intimate, underlining the fact of it being performing art which works very closely, and also thereby the name in touch to its audience. It's not generating mass productions to huge theaters and 600 or 6,000 people seatings, but to the amount of people that you actually can be intimate with. It is designed to receive a small audience groups or individuals in order to relate individually to each person. Meaning it is performance art in which not only you are intimate with the performance and the performers, but you are as an individual relating to the performance, being related to, being talked to, answering, touching, watching. It is dependent on audience participation. It is absolutely not passive, your function as spectators. It facilitates genuine encounters in immersive environment. The key word here is immersive in the sense that it is performance art that actually makes use of what the fact of being live gives you a possibility to do. It's not frontal, it's everywhere. It's behind, over, on you. Explores and employs different forms of sensorial communication. Any sense, not particularly the watching or listening sense, is prioritized. And allows audience members to navigate through an aesthetic and sensuous universe. And navigate means you'll be moving around, you won't be sitting somewhere, again, experiencing passively something. And of course, in contemporary performance art or theater or dance, more and more of these productions have been created in different countries of different independent people which don't necessarily know each other. And as Cantabile 2 has been working for the last 10 years exclusively somehow on these principles as a sort of a manifesto, we met more and more often partners in the meaning of other artists and also other programmers who are focusing on this particular aspect of stage art. So we are creating the In Touch network, which is a four-step process into generating meetings between artists working in these directions that might end up in collaborations and co-productions at the end. The project just... I want to mention the actual partners of the network today. It is Carte Blanche in Denmark, Timfo in Finland, Teater Unionen in Sweden, Dance og Teatercentrum, Arts Hub Norway, Cantabile 2 of course, Triage Live Art Collective in Germany, Australia, Secret Hotel in Denmark, Meet Mimosa in Germany, and Gap and Joint in Poland at the moment. And the project just got funded by Nordic Fund in its first steps. The very first step, of course, of the network is a mapping process. We are going to travel and have a sort of on-the-floor, on workshop level artist-to-artist meetings in the beginning of 2015 in Norway, Sweden and Finland. with the help of the organizations I mentioned. Really trying to individuate, to establish, to create bridges between artists. It can be large institutions, it can be producers, it can be individuals which are focusing on human-specific work, even if they don't call it necessarily human-specific because they are somewhere else and they have other names or no names for it. And of course spreading knowledge about these principles of work, exchanging experiences. What the network, it already exists, the network, for many years as a Facebook-based network that connects 150 independent artists and organizations or institutions. But what it really wants to do is to generate working labs, situations in which companies meet or individual artists meet for working weeks to exchange and develop projects. We had a fantastic experience when we met with Carte Blanche, which is another Danish company, and exactly in that way, by having an experimental 2 weeks on the floor meeting, confronting methods of this participatory, interactive, human-specific work, we found out so much empathy that we actually produced performances together since. So we want to share artistic processes and we want to meet partners, whether it's individuals, organizations, producers, programmers, to work and develop and focus and let human-specific performance grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please come with some questions or comments and observations.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Can I? Oh, sorry. No.
Take it first, then we have a... Yeah.
I am a student at the Norwegian Theatre Academy, acting, but I'm Danish. But I would like to hear your thoughts on, for example, Wilderness or the Kedja project that was sounded really well organized, and I was just thinking about that theatre and performing arts is really going into, at least as I see it, as a very crossover market, and it can be really hard to, when you apply for something that it's not really dance, it's not really theatre, it's maybe multimedia, something. What are your thoughts on getting applications that are not specific dance, but maybe are in part of dance, but is in this crossover field?
In this question I can only ask for Wilderness Dance, but we actually have quite a number of companies that are the chosen companies in Wilderness and that are crossovers. And in general I would say in Kedja we are not so concerned with this. But I'd like to throw this really back to the theatre sector, about why isn't the theatre sector in the Nordic countries creating and organizing projects similar to Kedja?
I don't think I really have anything to add, because where we are experiencing this is in the wilderness thing. So, I mean, the people who attend all our other activities, they find themselves, if they think they belong to a dance world.
We should have 3 microphones down here. We've got my me on. Yeah.
question to you was just whether there is an international aspect to this, or is it strictly a Swedish activity?
It's like as I said at the conclusion of my little presentation, is that so far it's been only a strictly Swedish project, but we would very much like to internationalize it. The idea came up that we should arrange a Nordic speed dating during these days here in Copenhagen, but unfortunately the time of preparation was too short. It takes, on the average, it takes at least 3 months, to get all the contacts, to make sure that all the theatres are coming, to inform the job seekers and so on. So there was no one who had the time to run it here. But I'd be happy to organize it for the next Performing Arts Days. It will be a lot of fun. And it would not only be for directors, because you could extend these to several other professional groups as well within the performing arts community. But so far only in Sweden, yes.
Well, that's more a reflection on your question, because I think there's so many different logics at stake here. One is, of course, that institutions, besides having a mandate very often given to them by a board or their history, so to speak, they also have a follow the money logic. And the follow the money logic is a different logic than creating space for cross-sectorial arts projects or cross-aesthetic arts projects. And we don't have structures yet that really embraces the new. We always think that we are very innovative and progressive, but we don't have that kind of structures built into the ordinary supporting systems. However, there are projects, if they are very well designed, like the Ketchup one, for instance, that can frame and embrace and transcend, so to speak, these pipelines that we very often tend to be within. And I'm not sure that the performing arts scene is actually the worst. My own former field in the arts museum branch is a very conservative branch when it comes to the power structures of curators and artists, and they don't allow cross-art sectors as easily as I actually expect and experience it within the performing arts scene. But we do have a structure problem, and that needs to be addressed. And then I'm looking at you, and it's kind of being unfair saying that's your problem, but basically it needs to be addressed. And the only way of addressing it is by sending the councils kind of locked, because the structures doesn't allow them, but the project is very good, so they will have to rethink the way that they do things.
No, it's just because we also talked about language yesterday, and just one example is that before it used to be Nordic Theater Day, now it's Nordic Performing Arts Day. And buses anymore. Just a small comment to that.
Yeah, and as a follow-up, I would actually argue that dance institutions, organizations, are in general, and I'm generalizing, are much more open-minded than theatre institutions in the Nordic countries. And I think the theatre sector has a lot to learn from the dance sector in the Nordic countries, both in terms of international collaboration, in terms of how it organizes itself, how it unites itself, and so on and so forth. On a personal note, I must say that I still experience, when I come into forums like we have here, and I sit across from a theatre person, and I tell him or her that I'm from dance, he closes up. He has absolutely no interest in it. So I think there is an inherent prejudice between the sectors still that need to be addressed. just as I think we are finishing, just a little personal advice from my 17-year experience of being in these international circles. Because we've been talking about so many diverse things, and just here in this panel, so many diverse projects of all sorts and shapes. So what I started doing when I began was that whenever I came home, I always found at least one person, sometimes two, sometimes three, that I emailed after I came home, my thoughts and reflections and questions and ideas, or praising whatever that person said, or so on and so forth. And it's just as a practice that I've used, and it's been extremely simple but useful, and I have actually made really good friends, and projects have come out of it. So it is really up to, and I'm sort of directing, it's up to you.
Yes, but I agree very much. Maybe my question was wrong, because I wanted to address the problem that dance is so well organized because it's on a cultural, like it has been internationalized for so many years, but theater is so much behind. So maybe I asked the wrong question, because I agree very much. I think there's a huge problem that theater is not thinking more crossover, or like when you apply. So I agree very much.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I think it's very interesting what you were saying about the institutions, because this is the ongoing dilemma we have in how we can change the institutions. And it's not just, for a director of theatre to come in and change things is easier said than done, because you have all the contracts and you have a deep-rooted mentality, and also from the funders, and because if you go and kick everybody out and start again, you get a huge resistance, and you need a huge backup to be able to do that. I was just going to say, because of the dance, because this is also a little bit in the national dance institutions. They are also a little bit old-fashioned, even though they are, freer perhaps than the theatre, but they're also rooted in a very traditional way of thinking, and difficult to maneuver within that kind of strict system. And a good example of not crossing over is that we have a city theatre in Iceland, a really big theatre with the same kind of problem. But within the theatre, the National Dance Company is in the basement, and they rarely work together. There's no crossover except when the dancers dance in a musical. I mean, the artists never have a meeting point where they kind of collaborate or create something together. There's nothing.
Don't forget the dance theatre competition for many, many years.
Yeah, no, but you have to keep on going, and then that stopped, and you need to kind of develop it further. But it's amazing if you think about it. It's like an invisible wall, but still you have very creative people on both sides, and very kind of, these artists, both the actors and the dancers, are very individual artists and very strong artists. It's not old-fashioned or anything. But this is still not happening.
I kind of agree, and then, without really wanting to go into this periphery and centre discussion here, because it's a huge discussion, and it's so complex. But just looking at it from an urban perspective, and then talking about urban environments in the Nordics, what we have seen when we have done our research and we have been out there mapping and scanning is that there is an emerging sub-scene of very, very interesting small theatres and small theatre groups, really testing the format of the theatre, testing the format of the theatrical narrative and the way it's being disseminated to the audience. Getting out of their houses, getting out of the black box, doing things in different ways, and really trying to reframe things. So lots of things are happening in the theatre, but getting from that level up through the very hardcore, public-funded theatrical institutions into the top, that is very difficult, and it's seemingly very difficult because those who give the money, maybe doesn't understand what's actually going on just under their nose, or they don't see it, or they actually don't, and this might be the case, and then it's really bad, they don't want to support it, because it challenges the narrative of arts in society. It's something else, it's something new. And maybe this is kind of where we are heading, that we need to bring these new things on top, and we need to find other ways of doing it.
So this seems to be one of the strong themes from yesterday as well, this with the institutions, contra and the independent artists and the communities, and also the institutions, how flexible they are, and with the pressure that lots of institutions have of delivering numbers and seats and so on. But I want actually to question or give the question to you, Ann-Sophie, about sight, because that's a slightly kind in Scandinavia or in the Nordic countries, because you are, as I hear and as I understood, you are actually supporting the content and the content producers, if we will use a market terminology about the arts and the artists. How you don't need to deliver any numbers of seats that has been sold and so on. So what's your...
We are not a theatre. We are saying that over and over again to the funding bodies that are supporting us. And we have great support from the city and from the region, and less from the Art Council. And they realize that dance, mostly dance, and the young companies, the not so established companies, in Stockholm we need more production opportunities. We need more studios. We need to help the young artists to develop their skills in managing their own business. So, yeah, we are really good supported by the city and the region, I must say. And always, also on private fundings. Last year we were funded by this Swedish-American funding body, Barbro Osher Prosvetia Foundation. And so that has not been a big problem for us. They understand that we do not deliver. We deliver, but it's not from paid audience. We have no ticket income. But we deliver how many people that came to us as visiting for the workshops or work in progress, and so we deliver some statistic. Last year we had about 1,000 people coming to participate in different kind of activities in the house. But we have been very, very clear with that from the beginning. And I think it's interesting, when we're talking about these cross-border activities. In my experience from last year in Jönköping, now we don't have Theatre Biennale and Dance Biennale, we have the Performing Art Biennale. It was so many actors who actually came and saw dance productions and said, wow, can you work in this way? It's fantastic. I will do the same in my theatre company. So I think we have to include dance and theatre in the same space to meet together. And I think the cross-border will start to grow slowly.
Yeah. We have one last question.
Thank you all for this inspiring conversation, because this is very interesting, this tryouts to getting out of the box of all of you. So, but I want to address my question to Cantabria too, because it's actually two questions. One is how the institutions and the Arts Council react to this kind of project that you are presenting. I've seen your show 2 days ago. And in the other hand, I have a question, more artistic question, that it's very interesting, and I'm maybe interested in participating in your In Touch network as well. I have worked as well in this kind of intimate shows or artistic creation. But during your show, I have this it raised me several questions. One is this idea of the participatory aspect of the audience. It's also kind of with this invisible hand that is always controlling time, controlling relation with space, and also the contents in some sense. So the participatory is a little bit tricky on our side, because we are always in control in some sense. For example, we are in the middle of your show, there are something that we have a kind of a scene that we are saying something, and because time is out, so we cannot finish, or we need to move in some directions and performing some kind of guidelines that they are imposing in some sense. So I cannot do not participate if I want sometimes, because it put me in this awkward position as well. So it's one thing, it's this political position that you are proposing, how the institutions and the Arts Council react, and how you feel this needs to control at the same sense that you are proposing something that it's to go behind this border of control, one vision show. So.
Okay, so well, I think it's really a distinction between Arts Council and institution. In Denmark, it's the Arts Council is because of the big institutional theatre being as they are, the Arts Council is the only way there is to manage to create and get support for diverse projects. We are a special case because we are a Towns theatre. We've been for 25 years, and the little city of Vordingborg has decided to support what we do without any artistic judgment or prejudice. They are interested in us being there and developing our own line of work. But I can see from colleagues that the Arts Council is where really the new ideas are coming from, not the council itself necessarily, but that's what they are founding. They read 300 equal applications and they really turn on to, oh, this one is diverse, this is special, this is a similar application. So there is so much openness there, and it's true, there has never been, I mean, I was talking to Eugenio Barba last month, which has done audience theatre here, and we have totally different in our way of work, but it was interesting that in the 50 years he's been in Denmark, he's once been asked by an institutional theatre to do something. I've once been asked to do it. There is a huge barrier, which is not like that in Germany, in Southern Europe. Here it's really, maybe because of it being a small country, where you work with the ones you know, so people who come from state theatre school work with those that were their students, colleagues, and friends. It's thick wall. Very difficult to break. And then the same for dance and theatre. And about your other question, well, it's human-specific work, but of course it's not democracy. it's still structured as a piece of, you can call it art if you want. It's made out of a structure, and for me, and now we are going to concrete artistic views, but for me, if you want to open so much to audience participation, you need also to have very rigid structure to balance the possibility for the spectator to really dive into interaction and not letting that interaction taking over the artistic concept of what you're actually doing. You have to be able to switch off, move on, surprise. all these elements are still very relevant, even in a very interactive artistic process, I think.
Yeah, thank you. You will have the opportunity to talk more now. We have lunch. So we will switch over to the other place and there grab a sandwich, and then you can speak more to these people.